Hi, I'm Darren Morton and welcome to Happiness by Design. In this episode, we're going to discover why it is that how you move affects how you feel. But to start, I want to show you a simple experiment in my laboratory. For this illustration, I needed someone with huge bicep muscles, and when I couldn't find anyone of that description, I got my brother here, Dr. Jason Morton, a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Science at Avondale College. Now, I've wired Jason up with these electrodes, and no, I'm not about to electrocute him, but Jason, can I get you to contract your bicep muscles for me? And what you see on the screen is this hive of activity. What we're detecting here with this electromyographic machine is the brain speaking to the muscles. But what we've discovered in recent times is that not only does your brain speak to your muscles, but your muscles speak back. And on the way from the muscles, the messages pass directly through your emotional brain. Now I have a little experiment I'd like you to try out. Here we go. Hold your hand out like this, finger extended. Now close your eyes and I want you to attempt to navigate your finger to your nose and touch it. Your turn. How did you go? How did we do that? Look at this, here we go. I know you're going to be amazed by this phenomenal feat, but I can, even if I move my head around a little bit, I've got my eyes closed, I can't hear my hand, and now I can't see it, and yet I can still successfully navigate my finger to my nose. How is it that we have that ability? Now, I made the mistake of asking an audience this one time, and one gentleman informed me, he said, well, you see, I'm so used to shoving stuff in here that I just aim a little higher. Well, maybe that is the case. But the correct answer, and the reality is that throughout your body, whether you realise it or not, there are millions, literally millions of little nerve endings, and we refer to these as proprioceptors. And it's the function of these proprioceptors to send information back to our brain to tell our brain where our body parts are in relation to each other and how we are moving. Let me illustrate this for you, or demonstrate it with the help of my assistant here, Fred the talking head, or Fred the half head. He doesn't talk that often actually. If we open up Fred's head, we can see on the inside here is the brainstem leading up to the emotional centre of our brain, the limbic system. And you literally had, as I said before, between 6 to 10 million little nerve endings that come up through the brainstem and inundate this part of our brain. And what that means is quite simply this: motion creates emotion. How we move, how we position ourselves, how we posture ourselves affects our emotional state. Now, I have a conviction, and this is just my impression, but we know that there is an epidemic of depression in our society. I believe that one of the factors that is powerfully contributing to that is the posture that we adopt day in, day out. Let me illustrate. So many of us spend our time sitting in a state, slumped over, head forward, doing this. 8 to 10 hours a day. Now I ask you, if you saw someone sitting like this on some chair, what would you conclude about their emotional state? I know what I'd conclude. That person is down. They're depressed. Well, in fact, by doing this, you actually have 8 to 10 million little nerve endings feeding information back to your emotional brain saying you are down, you are flat, you are depressed. And so it perpetuates, it creates that emotion. And I honestly believe it's because so many of us are sitting 8, 10 hours a day in this particular posture, it's taking its toll on our emotional state. We know that our posture affects how we feel. Let me give you a little scenario. It's a Sunday afternoon. You have the day off, and so you're watching the sport, and your posture looks something like this. You're on the couch, which is more comfortable than this chair, I'm assuming. You have your pack of crisps positioned here and lollies on the other side, and perhaps a can of soda there as well. And as you sit there, and in 5 hours into this particular activity, watching the sport, how much energy have you been burning? Not very much at all. You should, in theory, feel like a ball, like just have so much in reserve, ready to go. But how do we feel? We feel absolutely flat as a pancake. And why is that? Because all of these nerve endings feeding information back to our brain saying, whoa, you are down, you are flat. And so we have no energy whatsoever. We just feel blah. We feel blah. But things start to change. You're lying there for the past 2 hours, you have been busting to visit the bathroom, and eventually the pressure mounts and you cannot contain yourself anymore, and so you decide it's time to get up. And so it looks something like this. You roll out and you get onto your knee, and then you wait for your blood pressure to catch up, and then you slowly get to your feet, and then you go to the bathroom and do what needs to be done. And then you come back and you think, oh, I should go to the couch, to the refrigerator again to get some more supplies. And so you get your supplies. And then as you walk back to your little abode, you think, oh, I should go grab the mail. I haven't checked that today. And so you'll walk outside. And as you're walking down your driveway, you look and you think, the grass looks like it needs a bit of mowing. And so then you go and you grab the mower and you do the lawns. Now here's the question. Only 5 minutes before, when you were sitting like this in this slumped over state, did you feel up and emotionally aroused enough to actually go and mow lawns? Not at all. So why is it that just 5 minutes later that's changed? Well, quite simply because the act of moving in a dynamic way, walking, getting up on your toes, moving about, floods our emotional brain with messages which changes our emotional state. You know, the key message is this: how you move affects the way you feel. Not just in terms of our posture, but also how our body parts are placed and how dynamic and how energetic we move with. I'm going to flesh that second concept out a little bit further, so stay with me, because after the break I'm going to be using a dirty word. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now I have a little activity for you, and I want you to do this where you're viewing. Don't be embarrassed now. I want you to hold your fist out like this with your thumb to the side. Now this is a little word association game. I'm going to say a word, and if it gives you this warm fuzzy inside, I want the thumbs up. If it fills you with this sense of dread and foreboding, then it's thumbs down. So here we go. Let's start in the middle. First word, chocolate. I imagine I'm probably getting quite a few thumbs up at this point in time. All right, back to the centre. What about dirty socks? I'm assuming we'll probably go this way. Back to the centre. What about Monday morning? Right, I imagine depending on how much you love your job, it'll go one or the other. But here's my last word, and here is our dirty word that I told you that I would share with you. Exercise. Which way has it gone? You know, the truth is that for many people, exercise is a dirty word. And when I'm in the process of often giving talks, presentations to community groups, talking about the value of exercise, I find now that I actually try not to even use that term, because I see these people with their eyes glaze over and it's like, oh no. In fact, if I were to ask you what words do you associate with exercise, the most common that come up is pain and sweat. And so is there any reason why we try and resist getting involved in that particular activity if it's pain and sweat that we associate with it? I have a guest joining with me today, Nadine Dunn. Thank you for coming on the show.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Let me ask you, first of all, exercise, pain and sweat, is that what you associate?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I don't think you can start doing exercise, well, especially when you start, without having the pain and without having the sweat. And I think sweat's a good sign sometimes that you are exercising hard. So I think I can associate with that. I can also now, a few years down the track, associate a feeling of well-being and just feeling good in myself and feeling fit and healthy. So okay. I can have some good things.
Now you're giving me the answer I want. So I want to hear your story, because yours is an interesting one. You are a mum?
Yes.
How many kids?
I have 2 children.
Does it feel like more than that at times?
Yeah, no. Yeah, 2's good, 2's good. No.
So Kaylin, you said?
Kaylin is 4 and Ebony is 2.
Right? And they're tough times, those.
They are. They're active kids, and it's busy and it's hard work, but it's also, you know, the greatest job, and I'm so thankful I can be at home with them, so I'm blessed, but it is hard work.
Yes, absolutely. So, youngest is just gone
Just
two.
gone two.
Now, obviously, you know, particularly pregnancy takes its toll on
some women.
males. Well, sorry, females more than the males. I can attest to that. And you found yourself in a situation where, well, once you used to be quite active. You said when you were young, as I understand. But it's hard when you're sort of carrying another.
Yeah, I enjoyed my pregnancies. I ate a lot and I probably didn't exercise as much as I should have, but I was healthy, you know, throughout the pregnancies. But afterwards I continued to not really exercise, felt tired looking after the kids, and just kind of forgot how good it felt to do that and just let it go, and I was quite unfit and put on quite a lot of weight with that. So
Right. And so about a year ago, was it? It sort of came to a climax for you.
Said, can't do this anymore. I need that good feeling back. I need to feel good about myself and good about life, and I've got kids to be an example for and friends to be an example for, and I thought, I know what to do, so I thought, let's do it.
So you did it.
So I did it.
And so you started getting active, and obviously you incorporated a sensible dieting program into your plan as well. I want to talk about the exercise part though. We've been speaking about this notion that the way our brains are configured is such that how we move affects how we feel.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And it's true. I mean, you know, for example, posture. As we spoke about earlier, will affect your emotional state, but also activity level. However, that's not always the case sort of early on when people first commence. And, you know, in honesty, when you first started, you know, in a situation where you hadn't been active for a long time and you're carrying a bit extra weight, was it pleasurable?
Not at all. It was hard work. That's the only way you can say it's hard work, and it was painful, and your body felt tired, and you just, you were like, is it worth it? But having been fit before, I knew that the good feeling would come, and I knew that it would be worth it, that, you know, there's a payoff of the weight loss and, you know, lots of different things, and you feel like you've achieved something. You're proud of yourself for getting out there and having a go, but then when you finish, you've also got that feeling that it does last all day, the rest of the day for me, and I do sleep better, and I do then eat better, and I am happier, and I've taken that time for myself to exercise, so you also get that reward as well, so it's multi.
So, and this is what we see in terms of exercise, in the context of exercise. In the early stages, people, we say, they generally don't enjoy doing it. And they actually don't necessarily feel better for it after because you're tired.
You're sore and you're tired, and you just want to go and rest.
But that does change, and it doesn't take long. What we typically see is people, they don't necessarily enjoy it yet, but afterwards they definitely feel the rewards and they feel better for it. Can you remember experiencing that yourself?
I can remember that. Just in the beginning, it's that hard, it's painful, and then it gets to the stage where you're not just proud of yourself for getting out there, you do get that rush of, it's like a bit of an adrenaline rush afterwards, especially if you've gone for a run and you know, it's hard work and you finish, you kind of, you know, you're pumped that you've done it, and that feeling for me of, well, lasts kind of the rest of the day. And I also started playing basketball, so I was in a team environment, so you've got that social connection as well, and others, you know, see, it's that good feeling that it's hard to explain even sometimes.
Yes. So let's talk about where you're at now.
Yep.
Do you enjoy exercise now?
I do. It's still sometimes hard work. You know, it's cold in the morning, you don't want to go for a run, but I've set it up so that I play sport a couple of times a week, so you're not forced to go, but, you know, you're accountable to other people to do it, so that's really helpful. And then I do enjoy it, and it's, you know, do it with the kids now, and it's not just going out for a run or something. It can be lots of different, you know, ways. We do swimming and we go throw a frisbee, and there's lots of different ways of incorporating it into your day, so that it's not just a boring, I've got to go for my 20-minute walk, or it's fun. It is.
Yeah, and so yours is a fairly typical pattern for those who persist. You know, they start off, you don't really like it, you don't feel good about it, and you don't necessarily feel that much greater afterwards. Then you move to, you don't quite enjoy it, but you do definitely notice that you're feeling better for it. And then eventually we move to the stage where we actually enjoy it, and we feel better for it after as well.
And if you don't do it, you really miss it.
Now, here's an interesting thing. Well, it's more than just miss it, isn't it? because we know that you can actually become almost addicted to this. And it's interesting. I have my wife sometimes. I like to run, and if I don't get out often enough, my wife has this little, she's very, very subtle. She just says to me, she says, Darren, I think you need to go for a run now. And it's true, because that actually, there is this addictive process. And we know that there's actually chemicals in your brain that are released in response to exercise or physical activity. We call them endorphins. And it's the same ones released in response to laughter, interestingly enough. And so there is a genuine feel-good-ness or a good vibe that comes with doing activity. I want to ask you a question after the break, and it relates specifically to some of the, I suppose, life transformations you've made in the process of getting active.
Sounds good.
Stay with us and join with us after the break. Welcome back. Now, Nadine, there's a question that I like to ask, and you never quite know how to broach these ones, but let me say, just be straight out. In the process of, over the course of the past year, you said when you started to get more active, how much weight have you lost?
Pretty much from the start, it was about 20 kilos.
So 20 kilos, so we're talking 65 pounds.
I have no idea, but that sounds about right.
That's about right. I mean, that's fantastic. Yeah. Honestly, that's a real credit to you. I mean, you look fantastic. So congratulations.
Thanks.
And you lost that, obviously over a fairly, good chunk of months, 4 months. And we know that for sensible weight loss, you don't want to do it too quick. In fact, it's ideal that you lose no more than about a kilo a week or so. And you sort of fitted fairly well with that into that model, didn't you?
Pretty close on to that kilo a week average, a little bit more in the beginning when, you watched your diet and you've exercised and it's such a new thing for your body, but later down the track, sometimes a bit less than that and other times around the same,
So the exciting thing about your story, I suppose, is that, so that's 8 months ago you lost that weight and you've essentially maintained that till now. You have.
That's the big worry. You don't want to put it back on.
So what do you do? How do you maintain it?
Well, still eat right, and that's not always easy. The kids, you just want to snack on their foods, and there's so many takeaway foods and high-fat things. But that we're learning in our house with the kids about sometimes foods and always foods and treats. So that's just pretty much how we do it. Certain things are only a sometimes thing. Lots of fruit and veggies and all that, And
what forms of exercise do you engage in?
Yeah, well, I do basketball twice a week, so I play a good 40 minutes of basketball twice a week, and then generally...
Do you find locking into a commitment that you have to go to helpful?
I honestly think that was one of the biggest keys to me losing weight. I was committed to, I love playing a sport, and I find that, fun and engaging with other people, but, you're committed to doing that every week, so, it's something that you do and you're guaranteed of doing that amount of exercise for that week, whether you do nothing else if it's a hard week and you haven't found the time. But then generally I try and make the time, and I've tried to learn that it's about not going for a 4-hour exercise or 2 hours. It's even if you can do 20 minutes 2 other times in the week, and that can be a walk with the kids, or Jeremy's home to watch the kids, I can go for a quick run or something. So
He's a good husband.
He's a great husband.
So supportive.
It is. It's important to have a supportive husband too, or friends and family that, aren't like, oh, look at her, whatever. It's really important to have them be, I'm so proud of you, keep going, and asking you what you need to be able to do it.
Yeah, to my mind, there's two fairly essential ingredients that you've pointed out there. One is actually engaging in, making yourself accountable, I suppose. And even, it's not necessarily joining a sporting team, but even if you can say to someone, hey, I'll meet you for a walk or whatever. It's very easy when you wake up in the morning and it looks a bit cold and the covers are nice and warm to say, hit snooze on the alarm clock, where if you know someone's waiting for you.
That's it, and I did that. I had friends that I was accountable for and friends that were encouraging, because everybody wants, generally it's the want of everybody to be fit and healthy, whether you're already in that healthy weight range, to just, to get active and do that. So lots of friends that were happy to walk or run or meet up or do things with the kids, and it was good.
The other thing I was going to ask, do you have in your head sort of a time set aside each day? Is there, do you have like a half hour or hour or?
Well, growing up, I was always really, I don't know where I heard it, that it's better to exercise first thing in the morning and it helps your metabolism the rest of the day. And so I'd get a bit down if I hadn't exercised in the morning, whereas I've kind of learnt with the kids that's not always the best time for me. So even if it's 20 minutes in the middle of the day that I can find that the kids are sleeping, I can do something, or if it's in the afternoon, Jeremy's home or my mum can watch the kids, it can be any time. So the other times are fairly flexible and
so it's what works.
But basketball is twice a week at certain times,
at
and that's set aside for.
I think it's important. Often we have people that are not morning people, and they have this idea that I've got to get up first thing in the morning, and all they're doing is they're associating or attaching more pain and discomfort to
making it harder. So, make it easier.
So you've got to make it work for yourself. The other thing I think that people often have the idea that they've got to be flogging themselves. They've got to be out there for an hour, tongue hanging out of the head. What we know is that most adults should be doing about 30 minutes of activity each day. And I often, when I share that piece of information with community groups that I'm talking to, if I ever see that sort of 30 minutes spark alarm in people's eyes, I actually say to them, hey, forget about 30 minutes. Can you do 5 minutes? Do you think you could go for a 5-minute walk? And most people sort of think, oh, after 5 minutes, I think I could do 5 minutes. And I say to them, well, that's great. Just do 5 minutes. And if at the end of 5 minutes you feel like it, then do another 25. Yep. And essentially, it's starting, isn't it? That's the hard bit.
It's just getting started, and sometimes you can't do the half an hour all in one go, and so even being able to do, I can go for a 20-minute walk. I might be able to find that time, and throwing a frisbee in the backyard and running a few laps in the backyard while the kids are playing, or someone said do squats while you're hanging the washing on the line. There's a way.
That is interesting.
There's a way of incorporating it, into your everyday life and making the time, because you have to make the time for yourself, and you feel good for having that time for yourself, and then you feel good because of the exercise. So it's win-win.
Prioritising. One last question. You mentioned the squats, which just gave me an interesting visual. Thank you for that. But I'm just wondering, have you incorporated any type of what we would refer to as resistance training, or some people think of as weight training, but it doesn't need to be weights. It can be.
Not really. I looked into it a few months ago, and it's something that I definitely want to start. I'm definitely, in my healthy weight range and things now, and I guess I haven't done a lot of weights, but I think it's something that I would benefit from, and like the feeling of strength and I guess building a little bit of muscle and see it as a way of keeping the exercise different and interesting and exciting.
That's right, giving that variety.
Yeah.
The reason I ask that is that we're learning more and more, and it's becoming more well established, the role that resistance exercise can play in the health of particularly older population, but also in females. And often amongst females there's this fear of it, because they think I'm going to be end up big and bulky. And I mean, that's all I wish that I could achieve, big and bulky. And so the reality is that, resistance training, even if it's just cans and body weight type exercises.
That's the children.
It's the children. And as they grow, you get stronger. Now, we actually now know that, resistance training improves bone health. Yeah. It actually helps weight loss a lot, which is intriguing.
Well, you've sold me.
Well, it increases our basal metabolic rate. So it actually is a very powerful stimulator of our energy metabolism. So it's great for that. And also we've noticed in the elderly population, it decreases the amount of falls that they encounter, which is a great thing. And they've got stronger bones, so that if they do go down, they can cope with it anyway.
That's it. Yeah, that's definitely, it's good to have like a goal, it's a new, every time you've got to keep your exercise interesting and have new goals. So that's, somewhere that I'd like to definitely look at going.
For sure. Nate, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show, and I just want to say fantastic effort, and keep it up. And hopefully you can inspire some others to follow follow your lead. I'm sold, and it sounds like you're fairly sold on the merits of being active and the difference it can make. And the reason for that is that the way we're configured, we are designed to be active. You cannot get away. You cannot depart from the fact that we are designed to be active. It's in our makeup. It's the way God put us together. And I'm Darren Morton, reminding you to delight in God's design.